It was a crisp autumn night when Jenna and I set out on a seemingly ordinary night drive to visit her family in a small town nestled amidst rolling hills. The stars glittered above, and a serene calm enveloped the countryside. Little did we know that our journey into the night would unfold into a nightmarish ordeal. The familiar hum of the engine and the rhythmic swish of the tires against the pavement accompanied us as we ventured into the unknown. The road stretched before us, flanked by fields that seemed to stretch into eternity. The occasional signpost and distant farmhouse provided the only markers in the vast expanse. As we delved deeper into the night, conversation flowed effortlessly. Jenna shared anecdotes about her family, and laughter resonated within the confines of the car. The headlights cut through the darkness, revealing the narrow road ahead. It was a typical setting for a family visit. Uneventful, simple, and comforting. However, as we approached a desolate stretch of road, the atmosphere shifted imperceptibly. The once illuminated road became engulfed in darkness, and an uneasy tension settled between us. Jenna's cheerful demeanor waned, replaced by a subtle apprehension that mirrored my own. The landscape transformed into a sea of shadows, and the faint glow of the dashboard seemed inadequate in dispelling the encroaching darkness. The surroundings, once familiar, now took on an eerie unfamiliarity. The rhythmic beat of raindrops against the car roof added to the sense of isolation that wrapped around us. A flicker of unease stirred within me as we navigated the labyrinth of winding roads. The headlights cast long shadows that danced ominously on the trees lining the path. The silence outside pressed against the windows, broken only by the monotonous whir of the tires. Jenna, sensing my growing unease, attempted to reassure me. "It's just a bit isolated here, that's all. We'll reach the town soon," she said, her voice carrying a tinge of uncertainty. I nodded, trying to dismiss the growing knot in my stomach. As the darkness thickened, the road seemed to stretch endlessly into the night. The only guiding lights were the beams from our headlights, revealing glimpses of the road ahead before it disappeared into obscurity. Signs indicating the distance to the town became infrequent, adding to the disconcerting sense of being lost in the vastness of the night. Suddenly, a thick fog rolled in, reducing visibility to a mere few feet. The headlights struggled against the dense mist, creating an otherworldly glow that added to the surreal atmosphere. The road ahead became an uncertain path, each turn in anticipation of the unknown. Anxiety crept into our conversation and words became sparse. Jenna, now peering intently through the windshield, admitted, "I don't remember this part of the drive being so challenging." The subtle admission hung in the air, punctuating the growing unease that permeated the car. Navigating through the thick fog, the sense of isolation intensified. The car felt like a solitary vessel adrift in an ocean of uncertainty. Tension escalated as the road, obscured by the mist, became increasingly difficult to discern. A chilling awareness settled in. We were lost. Attempting to maintain composure, I suggested checking the GPS on Jenna's phone. The electronic voice guided us through a series of turns, each one plunging us deeper into the enigmatic night. The fog, unyielding in its grip, seemed to distort the very fabric of reality. Jenna's gaze, fixed on the screen, mirrored the confusion that echoed within me. The GPS, ostensibly a source of reassurance, transformed into an unreliable guide. The road it led us onto dwindled into an uneven path, bordered by foreboding woods on either side. In the oppressive silence, the only audible sounds were the sporadic raindrops tapping against the car's exterior. The uncertainty of our surroundings compounded, and the car moved through the mist-shrouded landscape like a vessel caught in a phantom tide. A faint glimmer of hope emerged when we spotted distant lights, a sign of civilization. As we approached, relief washed over us. It was a small gas station, its flickering lights cutting through the fog like beacons of salvation. Pulling into the gas station, we were greeted by an eerie stillness. The air hung heavy with an unspoken tension, and the dimly lit pumps cast long shadows on the damp ground. Unease clung to the surroundings as we surveyed the desolate landscape. Jenna, determined to seek directions, approached the gas station attendant. The interaction was brief, the attendant pointing down a dimly lit road with a cryptic warning about reaching our destination. A shiver ran down my spine, the words resonating with an unspoken dread. Back on the road, the fog persisted and the dimly lit gas station faded into the distance. The road became an interminable stretch, and a sense of disorientation settled in. The eerie stillness of the gas station lingered, a haunting echo in the night. As we pressed on, the fog lifted, revealing a desolate landscape. The road, flanked by dense woods, seemed to stretch into an infinite expanse. The car's headlights, now the sole source of illumination, cast long, distorted shadows that seemed to writhe in the darkness. An unspoken tension filled the car as we continued our journey through the unknown. The occasional signpost offered little reassurance, the distance to the town seemingly expanding with each passing mile. Time itself became elusive, and the night, once a familiar companion, became an adversary in the vast expanse. It was then, as the road curved through a dense thicket of trees, that our nightmare unfolded. A figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette that materialized in the dim glow of the headlights. The sudden appearance sent a jolt of fear through us, the car skidding to a halt. A man, disheveled and wild-eyed, stood in the middle of the road. His presence was an enigma, and the air crackled with an unspoken threat. Panic gripped us as we realized the isolation of the night had brought us face to face with an unknown peril. With trepidation, Jenna cautiously rolled down her window. The man's words, a disjointed string of incoherence, heightened our fear. He spoke of a town lost in time, a place untouched by the realities of the world. His eyes, haunted and vacant, seemed to hold a truth that transcended the tangible. In that moment, horror unfolded as more figures emerged from the shadows. They encircled the car, their disheveled appearance and hollow gazes creating a tableau of nightmarish surrealism. A primal instinct took over, and Jenna frantically attempted to navigate the car through the encroaching figures. The road, once a path to reunion, became a gauntlet of terror. The figures, seemingly untouched by the passage of time, pursued us with an unsettling determination. The car's engine roared as we accelerated through the night, the haunting images of the figures fading into the rearview mirror. It was only when we reached the safety of the town, the dim glow of streetlights providing a refuge from the darkness, that a sense of horror settled in. The figures, lost in the night, became a haunting memory, a surreal encounter with an unknown terror that lurked in the shadows. Our night drive, intended to be a simple journey to family, had become a descent into an inexplicable nightmare. The isolation of the night, the fog-shrouded roads, and the encounter with those enigmatic figures left an indelible mark on our psyche. The horrors that unfolded in the darkness were a chilling reminder that sometimes the unknown can manifest as an unexpected terror, hidden in the quiet corners of the night. Story 2. The night was draped in an inky blackness as I embarked on the journey to my friend's house. The road, an endless ribbon stretching into the unknown, was punctuated only by the intermittent glow of my car's headlights. The familiar hum of the engine was my sole companion, cutting through the silence of the night. As I traversed through dimly lit highways and quiet country roads, the monotony of the drive began to take hold. The dashboard clock ticked away the minutes, and the rhythmic drumming of rain on the roof created a lulling cadence. My eyes, heavy with the weariness of the day, scanned the surroundings for any signs of my destination. The fuel gauge, an unnoticed sentinel on my dashboard, suddenly snapped into focus. Dread settled in as I realized my oversight. The gas tank, once sufficient for the journey, now hovered dangerously close to empty. Panic gripped me as I scanned the desolate surroundings, searching desperately for any glimmer of a gas station. Miles stretched before me, and the road, once a pathway to familiarity, now seemed an endless stretch of uncertainty. The glow of my headlights revealed nothing but an expanse of trees and darkness. Anxiety pulsed through my veins as the car sputtered, a final warning before succumbing to the inevitable. I had run out of gas. With a defeated sigh, I coasted to the side of the road. The rain, now a relentless downpour, added to the dismal atmosphere. The isolation was palpable as I sat alone in the cocoon of my car, the rhythmic patter of raindrops providing a disconcerting soundtrack to my predicament. Fumbling for my phone, I hoped for a glimmer of signal to call for help. As luck would have it, there was none. The realization dawned on me, stranded in the middle of nowhere, in the dead of night, with no immediate solution in sight. Just as resignation settled in, the distant sound of footsteps approached. A flicker of hope ignited within me as I peered into the rain-streaked darkness. The silhouette of a man emerged, his form obscured by the curtain of rain. Relief washed over me as I envisioned assistance arriving just in the nick of time. The man, clad in a worn-out jacket and a faded baseball cap, approached with an easy smile. His friendly demeanor seemed genuine, and I welcomed the prospect of help. He introduced himself as Mike, claiming to live nearby. His offer to assist with a gas canister seemed heaven sent. As we walked through the rain towards his vehicle, a nagging sense of unease crept in. The isolation of the night, the deserted road, and the sudden appearance of a stranger all created a disconcerting ambience. I brushed it off as paranoia, attributing it to the vulnerability of the situation. Mike's car, a nondescript sedan, was parked a short distance away. The rhythmic beat of rain on its roof created a muffled backdrop to our conversation. He explained that he had a spare gas canister at his place just a little further down the road. Grateful for the help, I hesitated but eventually agreed to accompany him. As we drove through the rain-soaked night, a subtle shift in the atmosphere unsettled me. The dimly lit road seemed to extend endlessly, the glow of civilization becoming a distant memory. Mike, however, reassured me with casual conversation, diverting my attention from the growing unease. The car came to a halt in front of a dilapidated house, its windows long devoid of any sign of life. An eerie stillness hung in the air as I stepped out, raindrops cascading from the brim of my cap. Mike gestured towards the house, assuring me that the gas canister was inside. A chill ran down my spine as we entered the dimly lit dwelling. The creaking floorboards and the musty scent of neglect created an unsettling ambiance. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but politeness and the hope for a solution kept me tethered to the moment. As we navigated through the gloom, the sense of dread intensified. The rooms, adorned with faded wallpaper and remnants of forgotten lives, seemed frozen in time. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was an intruder in a space that held secrets long buried in its decaying walls. The door to what Mike claimed was the storage room creaked open, revealing a space cluttered with forgotten relics. In the dim light, I noticed the absence of a gas canister. Confusion painted my face as Mike's demeanor shifted. His friendly smile morphed into a predatory grin, and the air thickened with an unspoken malevolence. Before I could react, he lunged at me. Panic surged through my veins as I fought against his overpowering strength. The isolation, the deserted house, and the torrential rain outside painted a grim reality. There was no one to hear my desperate pleas for help. As the struggle ensued, I glimpsed a glint of metal, a rusty shovel leaning against the wall. Adrenaline coursing through my veins, I seized the opportunity. With all my strength, I wrestled free and swung the shovel, connecting with a sickening thud. Mike crumpled to the floor, a mixture of rainwater and blood staining the faded carpet. Fear and desperation fueled my escape. I sprinted through the rain-soaked night, the desolate road now a treacherous pathway to freedom. The cold air stung my lungs as I raced towards the distant glow of approaching headlights. The night, once a shroud of isolation, became my ally in the frantic pursuit of escape. A passing driver, alerted by the sight of a disheveled figure on the roadside, offered assistance. Incoherent and breathless, I recounted the harrowing encounter with Mike. The driver, empathetic and alarmed, contacted the authorities. Relief washed over me as the distant wail of sirens heralded the arrival of help. The horror of that night lingered, an indelible imprint on my memory. The rain, once a mere backdrop to the ordeal, now seemed to echo the intensity of the encounter. The isolation, vulnerability, and the friendly stranger with dark intent became a cautionary tale etched in the annals of that desolate night. In the aftermath, as I reflected on the horrific encounter, the realization hit me. The road, once a simple conduit between destinations, had become a battleground of survival. The night, initially an adversary, had transformed into an unexpected ally, guiding me through the ordeal to the safety that awaited beyond the storm. Story 3. The night enveloped the city as I stepped out of the office, my job interview now a distant memory. The bustling streets had transformed into a quiet landscape, bathed in the dim glow of streetlights. With the weight of anticipation and a faint hint of success, I set out on the familiar route home, my car a solitary companion in the stillness of the night. As I navigated through the labyrinth of city streets, the glow of urban life gradually gave way to the outskirts. The road stretched before me, flanked by darkened fields and occasional clusters of trees. The city's hum faded into the background, replaced by the rhythmic hum of the car engine and the distant sounds of the night. The drive, initially uneventful, took an unexpected turn as I entered a poorly lit stretch of road. The streetlights became sporadic, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance in the periphery of my vision. Unease settled in, intensified by the stark contrast between the urban glow and the isolating darkness that now surrounded me. As I continued along the dimly lit road, a chill crept through the car, a sensation that transcended the comfort of the heated interior. A sense of vulnerability took hold, heightened by the awareness of the solitary nature of the journey. The occasional passing car offered momentary relief, only to plunge me back into the eerie stillness as it faded into the distance. The radio, my usual companion during drives, became a source of dissonance. The familiar tunes now carried an unfamiliar weight, the lyrics echoing in the confines of the car. I switched it off, seeking solace in the silence. Yet the absence of sound only magnified the subtle creaks and rattles of the car, each noise a reminder of the desolate night. As the road unfurled before me, an unsettling awareness settled in. I was entering an area unfamiliar to me. The dimly lit road seemed to stretch endlessly, each turn revealing an identical expanse. The landmarks that once provided a sense of direction were replaced by an unbroken line of darkness. A flicker of uncertainty stirred within me as I contemplated whether I had taken a wrong turn. Glancing at the GPS on my phone, I found myself on an unfamiliar route, the blue dot drifting through a sea of uncharted territory. Panic fluttered in the pit of my stomach as I realized the potential magnitude of my detour. Attempting to regain a sense of direction, I followed the GPS instructions. The road twisted and turned, each curve plunging me deeper into the unknown. The landscape, once characterized by open fields, now morphed into a dense thicket of trees. The occasional glimmer of moonlight struggled through the thick canopy, creating an ethereal glow that heightened the sense of isolation. The GPS, seemingly oblivious to my growing unease, guided me through a series of increasingly narrow roads. The surroundings became an indistinct blur, the car a solitary vessel navigating an unfamiliar sea. The occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl created a haunting symphony that underscored the eeriness of the night. My phone signal wavered and the GPS lost its connection. Panic gripped me as I found myself alone in the heart of the unfamiliar terrain. The car's headlights cut through the enveloping darkness, revealing an unending expanse of trees that seemed to loom ominously on either side. A surge of fear took hold as I realized the gravity of my situation. The isolation, the absence of familiar landmarks, and the impenetrable darkness created a suffocating atmosphere. The road ahead, now a narrow path flanked by towering trees, stretched into an unsettling infinity. As I contemplated my next move, a faint glow emerged in the distance. Relief washed over me as I approached what seemed to be a small gas station, its lights flickering like beacons of salvation. The sight of civilization in the desolate night offered a momentary respite from the encroaching fear. Pulling into the gas station, I was met with an eerie stillness. The air hung heavy with an unspoken tension, and the dimly lit pumps cast long shadows on the damp ground. A sense of foreboding settled over me as I surveyed the desolate landscape. Determined to seek directions, I approached the gas station attendant. The interaction was brief, the attendant pointing down a dimly lit road with a cryptic warning about reaching my destination. A shiver ran down my spine, the words resonating with an unspoken dread. Back on the road, the glow of the gas station faded into the distance, and the darkness once again claimed its dominion. The road, now a narrow ribbon bordered by impenetrable woods, seemed to twist and turn without rhyme or reason. The sense of isolation intensified, each passing moment an agonizing reminder of the unknown that lurked in the shadows. A sudden realization gripped me. The road ahead bore no resemblance to the route I had initially taken. The GPS, now a useless artifact, offered no guidance. Panic set in as I grappled with the disconcerting awareness that I was lost in the heart of the unfamiliar. Navigating through the twisting road, a series of dilapidated signs came into view. Faint letters barely visible in the car's headlights hinted at a town in the distance. Desperation fueled my determination to reach the supposed sanctuary, the thought of finding familiar ground a beacon of hope in the oppressive darkness. As I approached the town, a chilling realization unfolded. The dilapidated signs, once a source of hope, now revealed an ominous truth. The town, far from being a haven, appeared abandoned. The windows of decaying buildings stared vacantly into the night, and the streets, devoid of life, seemed frozen in a state of desolation. Unease settled over me as I navigated the ghostly town. The silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the car and the distant hoot of an owl, heightened the surreal atmosphere. The air itself felt heavy, laden with a disquiet that transcended the physical realm. Attempting to retrace my steps, I found myself trapped in a labyrinth of empty streets. The town, once a potential refuge, became a maze of haunting desolation. Panic swelled within me as the realization set in. The town held no solace, and the night had become an inescapable nightmare. As I turned a corner, a figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette that materialized in the dim glow of the car's headlights. The sudden appearance sent a jolt of fear through me, the car skidding to a halt. A woman, disheveled and wild-eyed, stood in the middle of the road. Her presence was an enigma, and the air crackled with an unspoken threat. With trepidation, I cautiously rolled down my window. The woman's words, a disjointed string of incoherence, heightened my fear. She spoke of a town lost in time, a place untouched by the realities of the world. Her eyes, haunted and vacant, seemed to hold a truth that transcended the tangible. In that moment, horror unfolded as more figures emerged from the shadows. They encircled the car, their disheveled appearance and hollow gazes creating a tableau of nightmarish surrealism. A primal instinct took over, and I frantically attempted to navigate the car through the nightmarish gauntlet. The figures, silent and relentless, pursued with an eerie determination. The dilapidated buildings, once silent sentinels of desolation, echoed with the disconcerting sound of footsteps. Panic escalated as I felt the oppressive weight of their presence, an unseen force that seemed to transcend the bounds of reality. In a desperate bid for escape, I sped through the empty streets, the figures trailing behind like phantoms in the night. The town, now a haunting labyrinth, blurred into a disorienting maze of shadows and decay. The sense of horror intensified, each passing moment an agonizing descent into the unknown. As I reached the outskirts of the town, a chilling realization set in. The figures had not relented in their pursuit. The narrow road, once an escape route, seemed to stretch endlessly, the darkness closing in like a malevolent force. Desperation fueled my resolve as I pressed on, the car hurtling through the night with an urgency born of terror. The car's headlights illuminated a sign, a glimmer of hope that promised an end to the nightmare. The town's name, a familiar beacon, loomed in the distance. Relief washed over me as I entered the familiar territory, the nightmarish town fading into the rearview mirror. Yet the horror persisted. The figures, though absent in the rearview mirror, seemed to linger in the shadows of my consciousness. The drive, once a routine journey, had become a descent into the unknown, a journey that blurred the line between reality and nightmare. As I neared the safety of home, the weight of the night lingered. The isolation, the desolate town lost in time, and the haunting figures became indelible imprints on the canvas of my memory. The night drive, intended as a simple journey, had become a harrowing odyssey through the corridors of fear. The echoes of that night lingered, a spectral presence that transcended the confines of the car. The inexplicable horrors, hidden in the quiet corners of the night, became a chilling reminder that sometimes the journey itself becomes a descent into darkness, an unraveling of the mundane into the inexplicable.